And here we go with a full review of the New Balance More V6, everybody. Okay, so here we go, 2025 edition of the More. Oh man, the big maximal cushioning series from New Balance, and here we are. So got my feet into these shoes and did quite a few miles in them, and can report that this is indeed the Max Stack, you know, super duper dad shoe. Definitely gonna crush a ton of miles, and it is durable. It is bouncier actually than the previous iteration, that V5, and then definitely comfortable, guys. So let's go ahead and jump into this. So some good, some not so good, just some thoughts here straight away. In fact, we can go ahead and start top to bottom here. As you can see, this is the lace situation right out of the gate. As I tie it and then, you know, do that double knot there with the runner's loop, and you can see how very little lace remains at the very top, which, you know, you really got to get like micro surgical with it if you're planning to use these extra eyelets at the top here. Something that you want to notice kind of going forward, but I didn't have any problem finally making that knot, and I didn't have any problem with it becoming untied, so not an issue, but you know, just something for you guys to notice. All right, and then that said, let's have a look at the actual laces. So these are like, you know, kind of skinny mini and a little bit fluffy, and they do have just a tiny bit of stretch to them. But, you know, combined with this very generous padded tongue, I did not feel any kind of lace bite or additional pressure or anything untoward or uncomfortable with the laces here. In fact, it was a very supportive and good lockdown, considering the amount of cushion that is going on here. I did notice a little bit of tongue migration for me. It did dip down into the corner, but it never did officially like sink down into the shoe or fold it or any of that stuff. So it was never uncomfortable, but it did migrate, okay? That said, the tongue itself is quite padded. I really hope that you can see that. It was a very padded tongue that goes all the way down here and then terminates right here. Then, you know, there is a definite transition from tongue to not tongue right here at the vamp of the shoe right here, okay? And then having a look inside, yeah, it is gusseted on both sides, and it does a good job at assisting the tongue and then the upper, and really kind of cinching down in a very supportive and comfortable way that was not too tight across the top of the foot, okay? And then one final note, there are these plastic pieces, I believe that's plastic, going on right here to kind of keep that lace up and over, and it never 100% touches the tongue. I wonder if you can see that. You know, I'm sure if you were to like pull it real tight, then you might have some deformation there, but there's none of that. Actually, it does a good job in actually keeping that lace slightly elevated and away from the tongue. So that probably could contribute to it, you know, feeling super duper comfortable, okay? And then moving into the toe box, one of the roomier toe boxes for sure, but not the roomiest toe box of any shoe that I've ever felt, okay? Right here, you can kind of see how there's this like puffy overlay going on right here. And then you can kind of see how there's this like, almost like a peace sign going on right here, where the stitching is a little bit more materialized here, and then you have these ventilation holes. I feel like this does a good job in connecting here, and then the double points down here to offer this toe box a little bit of support and keeping it up and away from the toes. You know, definitely quite the tall toe box here. You know, I'm measuring from the bottom here, but you can kind of see my finger here, and then here's the top of the toe box. So, you know, maybe this, yeah, it's a decent height, and I didn't have any kind of touching of the material to the toes. I did feel a tiny bit of, you know, not rubbing per se, but definitely some noticeable material going on right here towards the big toe, towards, you know, the latter stages of one of my longer runs. But it didn't cause any kind of, you know, toe issue or, you know, nail issue or any of that. It's just something I noticed, and, you know, I tend to look for that kind of stuff, okay? And then thinking about the sidewalls of the shoe, okay, right here you got the Fresh Foam X kind of coming up and over and offering a very, very generous amount of arch support. Probably hard to see here, but it's definitely palpable right here on the medial aspect of the shoe. All right, and then swinging around to the lateral side here, again, lots of sidewall, but it also works well with the insert that's in here that we'll pull out here in a second. Molded insert that goes along with these sidewalls here. Definitely a symbiotic package going on with the shoe here as far as all the materials go. Okay, moving to the back here, lots of cushion here, guys. Look at that. Oh my gosh. So I do really appreciate how this Achilles tab is not up and pointy, and as well as you know, got some flexibility, especially towards the top there, which I notice these days, if it's too tight or hard or plasticky, or even has like that material towards the back and it's still cushioned in the front, I do tend to notice that, especially again towards the latter stages of the run, or if it's like too peaked this way. That is not the case, and also peaked this way, you know, like a point. But again, none of that stuff here in the V6. So good job, New Balance, and you know, keeping that like kind of to a minimum, but at the same time having a very nice supportive heel area for that heel bone to reside within. Okay, despite this being like a super plush and cush padded shoe, I did feel that the heel lockdown was nice. Even before I did the runner's loop just kind of, you know, affirmed the whole situation. And for me, it was just a tiny bit more comfortable as far as the fit goes. But I don't think it was completely necessary as far as like being required for the fit of the shoe. All right, and so, you know, again, it's like super duper padded all the way down, but right here in that little cavern there, it does disappear, that padding does, and it kind of reappears just as it kind of comes into the insert right here at the base of the shoe, directly on top of that insert. And if you can see in here, final note, how it does widen out. It's tapered here at the very top, and it does flare open, and then it becomes very, very wide towards the heel, but not so wide that you're swimming around and fishtailing in the shoe. It does a good job of capturing the heel and doing an up and over surround situation of your heel bone to create just a very, not 360, but, you know, very hammock-like sensation for the shoe here. So very, very good job. You know, the material that they use here will be on your screen. Looks like a mesh, you know, almost a fabric-y, very soft material. Not the softest ever, but still, you know, it's not that very, very rigid plastic feel, okay? All right, so all about the cushion, all about that, you know, squish here in the More V6. Okay, pulling out the insert, it is a little bit floppy, but you can kind of see what I was talking about as far as that heel goes. You know, very wide and generous, and then it does flare up right here to capture that heel. And then here is your arch area going along those sidewalls, and same on this sidewall over here towards the lateral side, and then it disappears towards the front right here for a full length insert of the More V6 that is all, you know, full of cushion and all of that jazz. Okay, so thinking about the midsole here, this is the Fresh Foam X formulation, and it does feel a tiny bit more bouncy to me than the More V5. Not a side-by-side comparison video, but it's just something that I noticed. All right, and with that, it still has that more hyper cushion, max stack, very comfortable sensation feeling going on, that as you're running along, whether it's forefoot, midfoot, rear foot, it does a very excellent job in capturing the impact and decelerating that foot as it kind of comes down. You can kind of feel the shoe purposefully shrugging inward as it goes along, like really, it doesn't matter like where my foot was landing. I was feeling this acceptance of the weight as I was coming along, no matter where it happened in the shoe. And I think geometry has a lot to do with it, and then probably some different durometers of the fresh foam here. I do see that there is a difference in color, at least, of the back and then the front. Now, my durometer deal is broken, but you know, I got a comment the other day that makes a lot of sense. Is like, you know, the numbers are the numbers, but we're not out there running and we're not like poking the thing while we're running. We're actually feeling it. So, you know, maybe going back to the fingers here as just being a generalized way of seeing what's firm and what's not. So yeah, definitely a lot squishier here with a tiny bit more firmness of this gray, which does go up, and then terminates here, right here, as you can see, and again kind of comes and then towards the front, and then here we are towards the lateral aspect of the shoe. And I'm seeing if there is a difference between the lateral and medial right here, and it does seem to be definitely on the front of the shoe. Right, as far as this gray goes. So I do wonder if there's a little bit more. It's a tiny bit firmer, but still soft by any standard. And then I see that, you know, there's like a blue thing here, and that's really soft, whatever that is. So 1, 2, 3 in a way, but I'm not sure if this third, that seam there, if you can see that, is really doing anything other than like, you know, having a little bit of design as well as, you know, promoting that sidewall that we talked about earlier. But either way, the stack height will be on your screen, as well as the weight of the men's size 9 will be on your screen. This is a men's size 11, so it is not a lightweight shoe, guys. Just having this thing in the hand. But then again, look at the stack height, look at all this build. This is not something that, you know, you're gonna wanna, you know, take to the races or be super fast in. If that is your plan, it certainly is a shoe that you could run the marathon distance in, as far as like, you know, its ability to keep you comfortable. I would have no doubt doing that. But as far as like a race day shoe, that's not what this is. This is like your super long distance, you know, just gonna chill out and run some miles cruiser, okay? Very good, Fresh Foam X, okay? And then I want to note the heel bevel. It's not as protruded as some of these other shoes. You know, you're not having this big, you know, boot scoop back here like some of the other shoes as well. The flare of the forefoot is not quite as dramatic as some of the other shoes, but at the same time, it still does feel quite wide enough to accept whatever I'm doing or whatever the road's doing. And then, like I said, you know, as the weight comes down, to receive that impact in a very controlled way and offer a ton of comfort, okay? And then here we are with the outsole here. This is that rubber that is just kind of staged, and I feel that the way that they have this is separated to a point and goes into the midsole in a way that does promote very smooth and buttery transitions, with the foam being a little bit more energetic. It did feel very nice, especially about the midfoot and even some of the rear foot landings, as far as like being very smooth as far as those transitions go. So while it doesn't feel super duper squishy to the hand, or whenever you're stepping into it, whenever you are running, it is appreciated that there is that extra little bit of energy return. Okay, so rather than you sinking totally into the shoe and then, you know, having to get out of that little quicksand and continue for the next step, it, you know, kind of springs you back, and that's really cool and really nice. And it still has that more sensation that we all know and love about the shoe here. Well, taking a look at the rocker of the shoe, and it does have, you know, some rockability going on here. It's not the most rounded shoe I've ever seen, but it does have some rockability, and that was definitely you know, noticeable during the runs out there. So very good job in keeping things peppy, but yet controlled New Balance. Okay, so the price for the shoe is $160. And yeah, you know, considering the shoes that are out there these days, that is very, very comparable. In fact, if anything, a little bit lower than the price point of some of the other super maximal cushion shoes. But this is a Fresh Foam X, and I'm not sure, besides it feeling a little bit, you know, more bouncy than the previous iteration as far as like the chemistry goes, I'm not sure if it's that much different, because there's also there's perhaps a different Fresh Foam formulation coming down the line as well. This is not the same as Fuel Cell and all those other specialty foams. So that is something to be considered, but that at the same time is a huge chunk of it, okay? So that's what I got for you guys. The link for this shoe will be down in the description. It will be a paid link, so if you were so choose to use that, I would get a tiny little commission there, no pressure. You know, there's, you know, tons of other ways to support the channel, and I really, really appreciate you guys watching. If you want to click like and subscribe, that would help me a ton. Feel free to join the journey. Okay, we're gonna talk about shoes, and remember, down here we're all about family and coffee and running shoes. All right, that's all I got, everybody. Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful day. Bye.